رحيم مشفق.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, we're continuing with our series Dawah Ilallah. And in this series we've been looking at how to call people to Islam, specifically how to call people to Allah. That is the meaning of the word Dawah Ilallah. To call people to Allah. And we've been looking at some of the characteristics that are required for a da'i. What he should have, what type of personality he should have, what type of characteristics he has. And if you've missed the previous episodes, you can go to peacetv.tv or peacetv.in on the internet, and I'm sure you'll be able to request when the other programs will be aired or where you can get the previous episodes. So let's continue today. Today we are going to continue at some of the other characteristics of what a da'i should have. And one of the important characteristics that a da'i should have as well is that he should be quite dynamic. And that he should be a person who he's very zealous in the work of dawah. So we don't want somebody who, doesn't see the urgency of dawah. You shouldn't sit there and go, well, whether I speak to my friend about Islam in 10 years' time or I do it now, I don't know. You must think of it as an urgency. Not because I am saying it, but because that person, you do not know how many minutes and seconds and milliseconds he has left in life, or you, how many milliseconds you have left in life. It's very, very quick. You look around and it's gone already. I was thinking today when I was having lunch, I think it's time that I had children, more children. Because you look at time and you go, yo, it's going by so fast. I'll be like 65 when he's 20. That's what you start calculating in your head. And you start thinking, time is shooting by fast. There's time that you, as a da'i, you have to be excited about the work that you're doing. And you need to have not addiction. Please understand this, that dawah is not addictive. I do not like that word, addicted to dawah. I'm sorry if I've offended some of those who might be watching this, but addiction implies a temporary fix. It implies that an addict gets his fix and now he's fine. Now he doesn't have to do anything. He's finished now. And he waits until he gets withdrawal symptoms again, he gets the shakes, and then he goes and does it again. And he has to have his fix. That is not dawah. Dawah is not sporadic. Dawah is not something you have to go and get into the zone for and get all psyched up and talk to yourself and go, are you ready? Are you ready? Should we go? Let's go do this. Let's do this. No, that's not dawah. Dawah is a natural overflow of what's in your heart. Whatever your heart is full of, the mouth will speak. When you want to catch somebody off guard, you just push a few buttons on them and see what comes out of their mouth. How many swear words come out, cusses or whatever the Americans use it. We say swearing, where we come from. They say words that they shouldn't be saying. You push a few buttons. Check it out every now and then. Maybe even let people push your buttons and see what comes out of your mouth. What your heart is full of, the mouth will speak. It's not just a saying, it's true. I've seen people where some people, I was shocked when I saw what came out of their mouth at certain situations. People that never expected that it did. Sometimes they let it off without even thinking it comes out. Sometimes there can be other forces involved. So it's not always that it can be from them. Sometimes shaitan is also very smart at doing things like that. But anyway, the most important thing that we're talking about here is to be zealous in the work that you're doing, to be dynamic, and to call people as soon as possible. Because it is like somebody who is standing on the edge of a cliff, and you don't want them to fall. The longer you leave it, the more dangerous it becomes. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. And maybe as I got older, I've become a little bit wiser. Every bone on this side of my body, not exaggerating, has been broken. So you can name the bone on this side of the body, it's been broken. So I was crazy when I was young. And now I'm starting on this side. I started to break one or two on this side only. But now it's less because I'm smarter now. Hopefully, inshallah. I remember when I used to climb or do mountain climbing or abseiling, whatever, you used to be braver or stupider, whichever you want to choose. I prefer braver, but it was probably stupider. Today, I'm much more cautious. I don't just stand on the edge as I used to do before. A million things can happen, and none of them are going to be good. So we have to use wisdom. So when we are doing dawah, we have to think of it in the same way. People are standing on the edge of a very, very dangerous cliff, and there's a million things that can happen that are not going to be good. Only one can be good, and that's if you grab hold of his clothes and pull him back. That's the only good thing. So this is Dawah Ilallah specifically. When we're calling people, we must have that urgency to call. We mustn't leave it till next week, next year. I want to cause any trouble here. Everything's comfortable here. The minute I start showing that I'm religious in any way, people are going to label me and they won't be as fun around me anymore. They won't invite me to their group. I won't be able to sit at that table anymore and have lunch, maybe at school, and this is how you feel. Like if I have to come out and tell everybody that I'm a practicing Muslim, they know I'm a Muslim already anyway. They see me going off on a Friday. They see me wearing a topi occasionally during Ramadan. They see me sometimes in a kurta when there's a special function on. I mean, that's surely enough. I don't have to come out now and say, like, spell it out to them, like, I'm one of those practicing Muslims. I mean, do they really need to know that? Maybe this is what's going on in your head. Yes, you do have to come out. Because if you do not stand up for truth, then truth won't stand up for you. Because on the day of judgment, Allah is going to be the one who is going to use absolute truth. And then you're going to have to give an account for why or why not, why you did something, why you didn't do something, why you said something, why you didn't say something. Every word we should be cautious on how it comes out of our mouths. We should be slow at speaking. So when we are talking about dawah, we must be very zealous. We must be zealous in what we are doing. We must be dynamic in our talking. We mustn't just be half-hearted. We mustn't think we're going to do it at another stage. We don't have to. Yes, you need to commit to Islam. Yes, you need to come out to your friends. You need to tell them that you're a practicing Muslim and be proud of it. Not to be embarrassed that you are a practicing Muslim. It's not something to feel bad about. There's a lot of ways that we can do dawah. But the best way is talking. You can have the t-shirts, and you can have the bumper stickers, and you can have the MSA programs, and you can have the table that you set up to give out free literature. But it's rather better to speak. Yes, there's ways of doing indirect dawah, but direct dawah is better. Let's look at some of the do's and don'ts that a da'i should observe throughout his life when doing dawah. So we've more or less looked at the characteristics. Now we're looking at some of the do's and don'ts. Remember what we said? If you're spending your life doing the do's, you don't have time to do the don'ts. So this is the formula for success. You at home, youngsters, you should have that written on your door. Make a nice, you can get a computer program, make a nice graphic, stick it on your door saying, if you spend your time doing the do's, you don't have time to do the don'ts. Very, very important to do. So some of the do's that we're going to look at, that a da'i should develop strong relations with the Quran, strong relations with Allah, strong relations with the hadith, the sunnah, must have a strong commitment to these three. Very, very important. You can't have a small commitment, because this is your source material. Allah is the one who you are calling to. The Quran and the hadith are your backup to tell you how to speak, who you're calling to, what you must say to the people. So you have to have a strong relationship to these books. In other words, you need to have read the Quran several hundreds of times. It mustn't have been only once in your lifetime. I often ask in groups, I say, how many people have read the Quran from cover to cover? And you'll get like 10% of the people putting their hand up. And I ask like half, third, a quarter. When you get to like a quarter, maybe you'll get most of the people. And when most of us have lived 20, 30, 40 years, maybe you're at home, maybe you're only 16 years old. That means you can have effectively read the Quran at least 4 times already. At least, if you only did it once a year. But we should read the Quran regularly. The more you read it, the easier it is for you to find places. So maybe you might not know exactly what chapter it is, and not exactly what verse it is, but you'll know where about it is. So somebody says something, you know, okay, it's more or less here, and you'll be able to find it within like 30 seconds. You might not know it exactly chapter and verse, but you'll get an idea of what's going on. So this is very, very important that you understand the source material. So this is the first do. Be familiar with what you are reading. This is all coming from the book entitled Dawah Ilallah. And so we need to develop a certain habits, certain traits and certain practices that are things that we do on a regular basis, habits. How long does it take you to create a habit? According to psychology, anybody know how long a psychologist, or popular psychology I should say, not crazy psychology, the mainline psychology, how long does it take someone to create a habit or break a habit? Say you stop smoking, how long will it take you to break that habit? Or whatever it might be. Maybe you've got a habit of sleeping late, and now you've been waking up for Fajr and you want to create that habit. How long will it take you? Do anybody know? 21 days. Here we go. How did you know that?
21 days. This was when we were asked to do a particular task, and if we did it for 21 days, then we were considered as successful.
Alhamdulillah. Well done. 21 days is what they say, according to psychology, as a more or less, you'll get it right after 21 days, inshallah. So if you can stick to something for 21 days, you will, inshallah, be successful at breaking that problem or adopting that into your life. So if you're having problems getting up in time for your early morning prayers, do it for 21 days. Create yourself a nice little calendar, put day 1 to 21 on it, and every day you tear that little piece off, and he says, okay, now I'm on day 2, day 3, day 4. If you want to stop smoking, do the same thing. If you fail, you start again. You go all the way back to day 1 and you start again. You will eventually be successful, inshallah. 21 days. So if you want to create a habit in your life of reading the Quran, every day you must read 6 verses from the Quran. Every day, at least. Just make a small amount. You'll get through it so quickly. So create a habit that is easy for you to do. So to be a person who follows through on things, start really small, pathetically small. So small that you're even too embarrassed to tell anybody that that's all you do a day. And then you add on to it upon success. So when you find that you're successful, then you can add more. When you first go to gym, you can't even do 10 minutes. You walk out of there and you basically crawl out of there. And you're feeling so embarrassed. But some people, they go in there and they want to do an hour workout and you never see them ever again in the gym. Rather be a person who did the 10 minutes, crawled out of there, and then next week you look around and you're doing 15 minutes. So you're building up slowly. Don't kill yourself in ways that you'll feel embarrassed that you can't continue afterwards. Make it bite-sized chunks. Remember that little story I told you before? Those at home will remember it. Is that when you ask a child, how do you eat an elephant? He says 1 teaspoonful at a time. Not that we eat elephants, but it's an expression, it's a kid's joke. You can't eat an elephant 1 big mouthful, not possible. But you can if you eat it 1 teaspoonful at a time. So in the same way, when we want to develop these habits, these traits, these characteristics, something we have to do small doses at a time. It's not going to happen straight away. Let's take it 1 step at a time. The next thing is that another positive trait that the writer speaks about in his book, he says that he should spend money in the path of Allah to seek nearness to Him. Doesn't say give money to the church, doesn't say give money to this group or that group. He's saying spend money in the path of Allah. Sometimes you cannot trust the people, organizations. I'm talking about in the church situation, people give money to the church. And that money is not being used what the church people believe and what should actually be done. So we're saying give it to those organizations that are actually doing things properly. If you're going to give. Or use that money in the path of Allah. In other words, buy Qurans, make sure you buy books, have those kits, remember? And you're doing dawah at home, have enough available information that you can give out to somebody once they are prepared and ready to accept Islam. Or maybe they're not even ready to accept Islam. Just give them that information so they can read up on it. If you don't have those funds set aside for that, then you'll have problems later. So make sure that you have enough cash, money, dollars, yen, whatever it is, set aside so that the work can continue to be effective. And if you spend in the path of Allah, then you'll be nearer to Allah, because you suddenly realize the value of money. This is not mine anyway. It belongs to Allah. There's been many a year where I have gone through life with very, very little. I told you before, don't give me money, I'm terrible with money. But when I have had money, and the little that I do keep, it seems to stay there a very, very long time. Because I hardly ever spend money on anything. But I do go through money very, very quickly when it comes to buying books or things like that. Like when I went on Hajj, I spent a lot of money. Because there were lots of books that I can't get in my own country. Lots of DVDs that I couldn't get in my own country. So yeah, I spent a lot of money. But those books are already being distributed. Even though they were supposed to be for me, they're already all gone out. So it's good to make sure that you have a fund set aside that you can use this for in the path of Allah. So that you don't have to run around asking other people for funding or money when somebody comes into Islam. Your responsibility is to look after them. Remember, it's like having a child. If somebody becomes a Muslim, you are their daddy. Or if it's a lady, you are their mother. You have to look after that person. They become your responsibility. It's no use leaving them to somebody else. They didn't become a Muslim through somebody else. They trusted you. And so you are the one that has to look after them. So just like a parent would have to send their children to school, would have to pay school fees, perhaps get school uniforms, buy the materials, you are going to have to do the same thing for at least a 1-year period. Even though the rest of the community, remember we got the 52-day plan, you still have to be responsible for looking after them and maybe looking after them materialistically. I'm not telling them go buy them all the fashion accessories and clothes and take them to Hollywood or whatever. No, I'm talking about getting like a basic things, like a topi, just something very, very simple. Maybe their first kurta. That would be very, very good to get them. They'll always remember that for the rest of their lives. Maybe their first Quran with Arabic in it. Things like that. So it's not a huge amount of money that you're required to spend. It's quite small, really. It's more, you'll spend more on junk food than what you're going to do on that. So, I mean, if you prioritize it, it's a very good investment. And of course, you're getting rewards for all that you're doing. But that's not the main reason you're doing it. The wonderful thing about Islam, it is not always our intention to do good just because we get the reward. But it's nice to know we get it anyway. You know, so we do something good. It's not our intention. That's not we go, oh no, let me calculate that. If I do this and then I'll get the reward for that. That mustn't be the intention of the heart. The intention must be of the heart because you genuinely care. It's nice to know that you're going to get that. But it's not something that we put all, well, the only reason we're doing it is for the reward. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do. If the ship is sinking, to use that analogy again that we've used a couple of times, you don't say, well, you know, I could sit here in the water or I could go on the boat. You just go to the boat. Do you understand? So in Islam, we do it because it's the right thing to do. You just get on the boat. You're going to survive. If the lifeboat is there, stop overthinking things. Do it because it's the right thing to do. So we do things in Islam because it's the right thing to do. And as a byproduct, there are rewards connected to it, inshallah, if Allah wills. If our sincerity is right. Okay, the next point that the writer brings up, the third point that is a positive, that things that a da'i should do, is that he should do his utmost for a just or good cause and then leave the rest to Allah. He should do his utmost for a just or a right cause and leave the rest to Allah. In other words, that person that whatever we do, we must put our trust in Allah, the most merciful, and then we must stand on that. We mustn't overanalyze, overdo things. Sometimes we can question too much. Not that we must be dumb. Obviously, we must question certain things. But sometimes we overanalyze and we are distracted from what our actual call is, what we should be doing. So we must do the most we can for what is good and just in our own lives as well. Like we need to practice what we preach. So we need to be people who apply these things to our day-to-day life. Whatever we're telling other people to believe in, we better believe them ourselves. We better be doing them ourselves. If we are telling people that we trust only in Allah, and we are doubting that Allah even exists, we have big trouble in our life. We have big problems. So we have to have an understanding of what we are calling to. We have to understand that we have to be people that are set apart, different from the rest of humanity. So you could do dawah even though you didn't believe what you were teaching, but it's not going to be very good dawah. Some people can still manage it, but it's better to believe in what you're teaching. So if you're having doubts about whether you should believe the hadith or whether you should believe the Quran, get those doubts sorted out first. Because you can actually cause more problems when people you're talking to ask you questions about this and you say, well, yeah, but you don't have to believe. That can cause more problems. So rather make sure that you have information that you 100% believe in before you start talking to people. The next point. The da'i should not only safeguard but fulfill the rights of other people in the society. So he should not only protect the rights of other people, he must also safeguard. So what we are saying is, we're talking about human responsibility, not human rights. The writer, the person who wrote this book, used the word human rights, or the rights of people. We choose in this class to use, instead of rights, responsibility. Responsibilities are far more important than rights. Rights don't really mean anything anyway. We have in our country what we call the Bill of Rights. If you read it, it's actually a Bill of Responsibilities. It's not a Bill of Rights. No one has really got any rights. Only government has the right to do what they want. We all have responsible to the government for whatever we do. So this is something that's very, very important that we have to understand, is that as Muslims, as a da'i, you need to safeguard your own responsibilities to society and society's responsibility towards one another. So if you see child abuse going on, if you see abortion clinics opening up everywhere and just giving abortions on demand, it's your responsibility to speak against things that are just being done willy-nilly. When you see, in our country, there was something that went around. It said they want to legalize marijuana. You know what marijuana is? You also know drugs. They want to legalize drugs, and they want to legalize gay marriages. So somebody wrote around and said, oh, now it all makes sense. You have to be stoned to be gay. So even though it's not a very good joke, it's a very smart one that somebody actually thought of. But this is what's happening in society today. We have lost our morals, we have lost our standing because nobody's standing for truth. So we as Muslims have to stand for truth. Well, that's all the time we have again for this program. So you'll have to join us again, same place, same time. So from us in the audience, from me, Areeb Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
رب رحيم مشفق متعطف لا ينتهي بالحصر ما أعطاه رب رحيم مشفق متعطف